Welcome to Upon Further Review for the San Diego Chargers and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a 21 sports production. We're going to go over the stats and give our breakdown while you look at some Madden gameplay as we play the game out, and those are some of the highlights from the game. We're going to go over the numbers. Let's start off with the offense and yards per game. And the Chargers put up quite a bit of yards last week against the Detroit Lions, as they put up 483 yards at home. And Cincinnati on the road against Oakland put up 396 yards. So both of these teams put up quite a bit of offense in week one. And now in week two it's going to be quite the battle. And then passing yards per game, 388 passing yards for the Chargers, 269 for Cincinnati. And rushing yards, 95 for San Diego, 127 for Cincinnati. And they both scored 33 points in week one respectively against their opponents. The Chargers converted 54.5% of their third downs, and the Bengals just 30.8%. In San Diego, they had 11 attempts. They converted 6 of those attempts in week one. And for Cincinnati, they were 4 for 13 on third downs. So in time of possession for San Diego in week one, they had the ball 38 minutes and 12 seconds. And for Cincinnati, they had the ball 32 minutes and 32 seconds. So both teams won the battle of possession in week one. San Diego, though, had the ball almost 40 minutes in that game. We look at the defense from both teams, and on defense, total yards allowed, 302 yards allowed by the Chargers and 246 yards allowed by the Bengals. In terms of passing yards, the Chargers led up 233 passing yards to the Lions, and the Bengals led up 183 passing yards to the Raiders. And then we look at rushing yards allowed. The Chargers allowed 69 rushing yards, and the Bengals allowed 63. Then we look at points per game. The Chargers led up 28 points to Detroit, and the Bengals led up just 13 points to Oakland. And then we look at third down conversions in terms of how many they stopped, and they actually only allowed 30% to be converted against them for the Chargers, and for the Bengals, they only allowed 25% of the conversion. So both teams did really well on third downs on offense and on defense. Both teams put up a lot of points. They both put up a lot of yards, and they looked pretty good on defense, although the Chargers let up a lot more points. Especially they were down in that game 21-3 rather, before mounting their comeback. They ended up winning that one 33-28 against Detroit. Of course, Detroit, a really tough team. That game was in San Diego, whereas the Bengals, though, they were on the road against Oakland, and against an Oakland team that's a lot tougher than I think people maybe give them credit for. I thought it was pretty impressive performance by Cincinnati, especially on defense, the way they shut down Oakland in that game on the road. They look good too, on offense, with Dalton to AJ Green. Also, Tyler Eifert looked really good. He put up over 100 yards. And out of the backfield, of course, Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard both with 63 yards rushing. Bernard also contributing out of the backfield with some catches as well. So I thought basically with this game, it's in Cincinnati. The Bengals are one of the toughest teams at home. It's going to be tough for the Chargers to travel in there and beat the Bengals. And the way, when you win on the road, it's usually with a good, strong, solid running game and defense. With the Chargers, they more have a high-powered passing attack, and they are, even missing some weapons in that attack, i.e. Gates. So, I think that the Chargers are going to have a tough one winning this one. I got to go with the Bengals in this game, especially with their defense. I think they're going to play them really tough in Cincinnati. I think they're going to be able to hold the Chargers down and not let them put up as many points or get as many yards, especially with their secondary. I think the Bengals got a pretty solid secondary, and just overall, the Bengals have a really good defense. Pac-Man led them in tackles last week with 10. Vincent Ray had 9 tackles. They also had a pair of sacks, as Atkins had a sack last week. Also, Dunlap had a sack as well. Nelson had an interception. They were looking really strong. The Chargers, they said, I mean, early on they were getting beat up and they let up some big plays. And those big plays that they let up against Detroit, I think that we could see some big plays from Cincinnati, especially from Jeremy Hill and A.J. Green. They did have a sack by Kyle Emanuel. They did have a pair of picks with Patrick Robertson, and Kyle Emanuel also had an interception as well. So he had a pretty good week there for Emanuel. He also had 3 tackles. And well, he had 9 tackles in the game to be their leading tackler. Of course, he did get burnt pretty bad by Amir Abdul on that one run there where he scored that touchdown. And they do have Melvin Gordon with the Chargers, and he did look promising, but he didn't really put up too big of numbers. Of course, Detroit got a really tough defense, but Cincinnati's got a really tough defense too. So I think the Bengals can win this one. I think the Bengals are all around a really solid team, and I think the Bengals are going to win their division, and I think they're going to make a long run this year and into the playoffs. So I like Cincinnati to win this one. This is the kind of game they have to win. They can't lose home games, especially against tough opponents. These are the kind of games where you send a message to the rest of the league. I think the Bengals winning this one is going to send that message. Of course, the Chargers, on the other hand, if they can go in there and get a victory, that sends a big message as well. That'll go a long way towards the possibility of them taking the West, which looks to be a pretty tough division. So it'll be interesting to see how it shapes out, but I'm going with the Bengals. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions, whether you agree or disagree. Definitely interested and open to anything anyone has to say. It's, we share information and we can always learn from each other. So thank you once again, and I hope you're having a good day and having a great week, and enjoy all the sports.